You know, if you look at the way our world operates today, there's this underlying, almost desperate expectation that success and failure should just be obvious.
Right, like totally apparent to everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We want it to be like a scoreboard at a basketball game. You sit in the stands, the final buzzer sounds, and you look up.
And there it is in bright red lights.
Right. The glowing numbers tell you exactly who won and who lost. And everyone goes home knowing exactly where they stand. No ambiguity at all.
Yeah, because a scoreboard is just binary. It's indisputable. You either have more points or you don't. And I mean, as humans, we really crave that level of certainty.
We absolutely do.
We want visible, tangible proof that we are, winning the game of life. We look for in our bank balances or the titles on our LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, follower counts on social media for sure.
Exactly. We want a metric that proves our efforts are actually accumulating into something that society recognizes as valuable.
But what happens when you step into a space where that scoreboard is just completely shattered?
Right. Where the numbers mean nothing.
Where the numbers we obsess over are utterly meaningless, yeah?
Yeah.
And the entire landscape of what we call a win or a loss is flipped entirely on its head.
It's a completely different paradigm.
It is. And that is the territory we are exploring today in this deep dive. We're going to challenge the very metrics you use to measure your life by looking at a highly poetic, rhythmic piece of text.
It's quite a unique source we have today.
Yeah, it really is. It's a transcript from a gospel music YouTube video by Philconnexion Digital Altar, and it's titled John the Baptist's Greatest Prophet. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, it is a remarkable piece of source material. I mean, instead of just giving a dry historical account, it uses this lyrical, almost spoken word style to dive into the life, death, and ultimate legacy of John the Baptist.
The rhythm of it is just incredible.
It really pulls you in, and the entire narrative hinges on a stark, dramatic contrast between human perception and, well, spiritual reality.
Which is such a massive theme.
Right. It forces you to look at how a sequence of events can look like an absolute crushing catastrophe on Earth while simultaneously being viewed as a massive triumph in a higher realm.
Exactly. And, to understand how this text flips our concept of success, we have to start with how this guy actually lived.
Because he breaks the mold completely.
He breaks every single rule of influence we have. I mean, if we're talking about a historical heavy hitter, someone who left a massive footprint, you'd expect the text to describe his pedigree, right?
His political connections, his wealth, his network.
Yeah, exactly. But the lyrics immediately drop us out where the wild winds blow, down by the Jordan River.
Yeah, it's a very aggressive rejection of the establishment. The text actually makes a point to explicitly list everything he doesn't have.
Right, like an anti-resume.
Yes. It says, no palace, no crown, no silver, no gold. He is entirely detached from the power structures of his day.
He's totally off the grid.
He is. And instead of fine garments, the source focuses on him wearing camel hair.
But wait, I have to jump in here. Because if you're listening to this on your morning commute, right, heading to a job where you are actively hustling for your next promotion or, trying to afford a nicer car.
Which is most of us, honestly.
Right. So John's lifestyle sounds completely unappealing. It's easy to romanticize a guy going off the grid in the desert, but practically speaking, how does wandering around in camel hair shouting "repent" actually build a movement?
It's a fair question.
Like, does total poverty actually validate his message to the people listening?
What's fascinating here is the psychological leverage that this kind of extreme detachment creates.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, think about how society functions even today. People are largely controlled by what they want.
Oh, for sure.
If you want a promotion, your boss holds power over you. If you want social status, public opinion holds power over you.
Because they are the gatekeepers to the thing you desire.
Exactly. But John wants none of those things. He doesn't want a palace. He doesn't want gold.
So by entirely opting out of the game of accumulation, nobody holds any leverage over him.
Precisely. Because he has detached himself from what the text calls a man's crown, he gains a completely different, uncorrupted type of authority.
The text mentions the truth in his tone, right?
Yeah, the lyrics highlight the truth in his tone. Think about it. When someone is trying to sell you something or trying to win your vote, you filter their words through their ulterior motives.
You're always wondering, okay, what's their angle? What do they get out of this?
Right. But when a person literally wants nothing from you, you are forced to confront their raw message head on. The lack of a physical crown is the exact mechanism that makes his spiritual message so piercing.
Wow. And naturally, I mean, the public's reaction was skeptical at first. People just don't know what to do with a person who doesn't want what everyone else wants.
It breaks our mental
It
models.
makes us deeply uncomfortable. The text notes that they laughed, they doubted, they called him strange.
Which is the standard reaction to anyone who bucks the system that hard.
Yeah, but that total authenticity eventually cuts through the noise. It builds this undeniable momentum. And the text notes that heaven marked him as an agent of change.
He becomes a massive disruptive force. His message is simple calling hearts back to God, declaring that the kingdom at hand is, as the lyrics say, not a man's crown.
Right.
But because of who is delivering it, thousands of people start flocking out to the wilderness.
Which brings us to the zenith of his career. I mean, he goes from being this strange guy out in the desert to being at the very center of this incredible movement.
the focal point of everything happening at that time.
Yeah, and the text describes his specific role. He was to prepare the way, to straighten the path for the light of the day.
And that leads to this massive climax moment in the water.
Right, the baptism.
Yes, the baptism of what the text refers to as the divine son. This is the peak of John's earthly influence. He has gathered the masses, he has delivered his fiery message, and now he is baptizing Jesus.
It's the ultimate culmination of all his work in the desert.
It is, and the source describes this as a literal cosmic event happening right in front of everyone.
The imagery there is huge. It says, heaven opened up, a door came down, and a voice from above declares, "This is my son, I delight my love."
A total shattering of the boundary between earth and heaven.
Yeah. And on top of that cosmic endorsement, Jesus himself declares that of everyone born of women, John is greater in the land.
That is it. That is the ultimate validation.
He has officially made it. I mean, you can't get a better endorsement than that. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because of how John handles that peak moment.
He does the unthinkable. He pivots.
He more than pivots. He actively dismantles his own platform. I mean, look at human nature.
It goes against everything we're wired to do.
Exactly. When we get a taste of influence, when we get a promotion or a viral moment online, we violently resist letting go of it. We consolidate power.
We try to ride that wave for as long as possible.
Right. But John voluntarily unplugged his microphone and just walks off the stage. The lyrics quote him saying, "I must decrease, you must be declared, and less of me, more Christ revealed."
It's a radical act of humility.
It really is. But let's look at this objectively for a second. From a modern, career-oriented perspective, stepping down at the absolute peak of your influence just looks like a failure of ambition.
It looks like throwing away a winning lottery ticket.
Yeah. Like imagine a warm-up act for a band, right?
Mm.
And they suddenly get a massive endorsement from the biggest rock star in the world. And instead of taking the mic and doing a massive set, they voluntarily walk off stage. Why would anyone do that?
Well, if your goal is accumulation, if you're trying to build a personal empire, stepping back makes absolutely no sense.
Right.
But the text forces us to define a crucial term here, assignment.
Assignment. Okay.
In this framework, an assignment isn't a career trajectory where the goal is to climb as high as you possibly can. An assignment is a rigid, preordained function.
So it has a definitive start and end.
Exactly. John understands that his specific job was to prepare the way. The job wasn't to be the light. It was to straighten the path for the light.
I think a good analogy here might be a spacecraft.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Think about the massive, solid rocket boosters on a space shuttle, right? Their entire existence, all of their fuel, all of their explosive power is designed for one highly specific phase of the journey.
Just to break through gravity.
Yeah, to get the main payload through the atmosphere.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it.
Well, thanks.
No, really, because the booster rocket doesn't fail when it runs out of fuel, detaches, and falls away into the ocean.
Right, nobody looks at it falling into the ocean and says, "Oh, what a tragedy, the booster failed."
Exactly. That deliberate detachment is the exact measure of its success. In fact, if the booster rocket refused to let go, if it stayed attached to the shuttle because it wanted to stay on the ride,
It would drag the entire mission down.
it would cause a complete catastrophe.
Wow. Okay, so John is the booster rocket. He burns incredibly bright, gets the movement into orbit, and then deliberately falls away because his phase of the mission is over.
Exactly. The text proves that true influence isn't about holding on to the spotlight for as long as possible.
It's about knowing your role.
Yes. To be the greatest in the land means executing your specific role perfectly, even if that role requires you to become obsolete.
That is heavy. But becoming obsolete didn't actually protect him.
No, it didn't.
And this is where the narrative takes a really jarring, really dark turn. We move from John voluntarily yielding his power to his violent, forced silencing by the government.
The lyrics do not sugarcoat the brutality of this part.
They don't. They mention they cut his head and that the blade fell.
We go from the cosmic high of the heavens opening directly into the gritty, violent reality of an execution.
It's a massive tonal shift.
It is, and the source spells out the exact motive behind this murder. It introduces King Herod, the earthly authority, and summarizes his mindset in one chilling line.
Right, I remember this.
The lyrics say, Herod heard truth, but chose a throne.
Heard truth, but chose a throne. But we have to dig into the psychology here because I think it's crucial.
Let's do it.
Herod is a king. He has absolute physical dominion over the land. He has wealth, he has palaces, he has armies at his disposal.
All the earthly markers of success.
Right. And John is an unarmed man in camel hair who just voluntarily stepped away from the peak of his own movement. So why is a powerful king so utterly terrified of a guy with zero political power?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to understand how tyrannical power functions.
Okay.
An earthly tyrant's authority relies entirely on the illusion of absolute control.
It's a mind game.
Totally.
Yeah.
For Herod to feel powerful, he needs you to either fear what he can do to you or desire what he can give you.
The carrot and the stick.
Exactly. But as we established earlier, John's power comes from the fact that he wants nothing Herod can give and fears nothing Herod can do.
Which makes him a walking, breathing existential threat to Herod's entire reality.
Precisely. A man who refuses to play the game exposes the absurdity of the game.
Oh, that's good.
Herod has an army, sure, but his throne is so incredibly fragile, so insecure, that mere words from a man in the wilderness threaten to topple his psychological control over the region.
So the murder isn't a show of strength.
Not at all. Herod has to resort to murder not out of strength, but out of profound, paralyzing weakness.
Wow. The text summarizes the tragedy so poignantly. It says, "A dance a lie cost a righteous soul."
Such a powerful line.
And the authorities who orchestrated it, as the lyrics say, thought it was the end.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, to anyone watching, it is the end.
On the earthly level, absolutely.
Right. On paper, this is a complete and total defeat for the truth. If you look at the earthly scoreboard we talked about earlier, Herod wins.
He keeps his palace, he keeps his throne.
And John loses his head. It's like a modern whistleblower getting totally crushed by a corrupt corporation. Truth loses to a lie and a dance.
It looks like the ultimate injustice. Just a complete failure. But the text intentionally sets up this massive physical defeat to force a total perspective shift.
Okay, how so?
Well, the earthly authorities thought severing a head stopped the mission because physical power is blind to spiritual reality.
They only see the physical board.
Right. They had no idea, as the lyrics state, that the crown was about to descend.
And that brings us to the core of this entire transcript, the ultimate split-screen moment.
It's brilliant how the source handles this.
It really is. Building directly on the brutality of his death, the source takes this single, visceral event and reveals two entirely contradictory reactions happening at the exact same time.
Yes. On one side of the screen, you have Earth's perspective.
Which is just devastating.
It is. And the physical reality is bleak. The lyrics describe tears in the streets. Earth was weeping. Earth saw death.
The text explicitly says Earth calls loss, right?
Yes, and describes people mourning, singing funeral songs. It is a heavy, very grounded grief.
But then you look at the other side of the screen. Heaven's perspective is throwing a massive celebration.
A total contrast.
The lyrics say, "Heaven saw wind." It describes angels literally on their feet, giving a standing ovation.
Which is such an evocative image.
Yeah. The text says heaven clapped louder than the sound of death. Instead of a loss, heaven calls it gain, glory, and reward.
They are cheering for him.
And then you get this final, ultimate judgment echoing from above. Assignment completed, excellently done, welcome home, faithful son.
To reinforce this radical shift, the source brings in an analogy from the Apostle Paul.
Oh, the running the race thing.
Right. Run your race faithful, finish the course. It asserts that the blood of the righteous never shed in vain.
So it's not a defeat at all in that realm.
Exactly. The text completely reframes the execution. It's not a life cut tragically short, it's a race successfully finished.
So what does this all mean? I mean, I have to push back here on behalf of anyone listening who is going through something really difficult right now.
Of course.
It is a beautiful, poetic concept that there is a standing ovation happening in some higher dimension. But we are human beings, stuck down here on Earth.
We feel the pain.
We do. When the blade falls, the pain is excruciating.
Hmm.
When you lose a loved one or your life falls apart, you can't hear angels clapping. You only hear the funeral songs.
That's very true.
Isn't it almost impossible to accept this idea of a spiritual victory when the earthly defeat is just so visceral?
This raises an important question about the extreme limitations of human perception. It is incredibly difficult. And what's crucial is that the text does not deny the earthly pain.
It doesn't sweep it under the rug.
No, the tears in the streets are acknowledged as very real. But it challenges us to realize that the earthly perspective is incomplete.
Okay, incomplete how?
Well, the entire thesis of the source is summed up in the line, "Heaven and earth are not the same."
Hmm.
What looks like an abrupt, tragic, premature end on earth is actually a triumphant graduation in the spiritual realm.
It's like looking through a tiny keyhole into a massive room.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
From our limited vantage point on Earth, looking through that keyhole, we only see a tiny sliver of what's happening. We just see the tragedy. We see a life ending.
Because our vision is restricted.
Yeah. But from the inside of the room, they see the whole picture.
That's a great way to visualize it. The lyrics say, "Prophet's gonna die, they just changed their place. From dusty roads to amazing grace."
Change their place.
Yes. The text demands that we stop evaluating spiritual success using earthly metrics. What earth calls lost heaven calls glory.
Which goes back to the scoreboard.
Exactly. If you judge John the Baptist's life by the standard human scoreboard, wealth, longevity, political stability, his life was an unmitigated disaster.
Yeah, he died poor and imprisoned because of a tyrant's insecure grudge.
But if you evaluate his life by the metric of assignment completed, he was absolutely flawless.
The booster rocket detached exactly when and how it was supposed to.
Precisely. It changes everything when you realize the scoreboard you've been obsessing over might be tracking the wrong game entirely.
It really is a profound framework for looking at reality. I mean, this text has taken us on quite a journey today.
It's covered a lot of ground.
We started with John's aggressive rejection of societal norms and explored how stepping away from the endless pursuit of wealth and status is actually what gave his voice its uncorrupted, undeniable power.
That detachment was key.
Yeah, and then we broke down the psychology of his radical humility, his willingness to act as that booster rocket, burning brightly and then deliberately detaching at the very peak of his influence so the main mission could proceed.
Knowing his assignment.
Right. And finally, we examined how a brutal, seemingly final defeat by a fragile tyrant is, through a wider lens, revealed to be a cosmic victory.
It really forces you to rethink every assumption you have about what it means to win and lose.
It absolutely does. Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over as you go about your day.
Something to take with you.
Yeah. Think about a moment in your own life where you felt you failed completely by standard earthly metrics. Maybe it was a product you poured your heart into that collapsed, or a career path that ended abruptly, a business that went under, or a painful rejection that left you feeling like you just lost the game.
We all have those moments.
We do. But what if you viewed that exact same painful event through this alternate lens? Could what you currently label a loss or a failure actually be your own version of an assignment completed? Could that defeat just be the necessary booster rocket detaching, preparing you for your next race?
Because maybe the buzzer hasn't actually sounded on your story. You might just be looking at the wrong scoreboard.
Keep questioning the metrics you measure your life by and keep exploring. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.